Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are focusing on something of a silent epidemic running through schools, through youth organizations, really everywhere. The slow, painful process of demotivation.
Hmm.
When we talk about success in education, the spotlight almost always shines on the visible metrics.
Oh, absolutely. The A plus, the perfect SAT score.
The academic scholarship, that's the scoreboard we all look at, right?
It is, but if you actually look at where character is forged, where resilience is truly tested,
Mhm.
and where essential lifelong skills are developed, it's often in the shadows of the curriculum.
Yeah,
It's in the co-curricular world.
absolutely. We're talking about the student who spends, I don't know, an entire semester designing a really complex Rube Goldberg machine for the engineering club, only for the final exhibition to be, completely overshadowed by the annual sports assembly.
Right, or the leader who organizes a charity drive that raises thousands, a huge logistical feat,
Huge.
but their name appears nowhere in the school newsletter because, well, they didn't win a formal award for it.
Exactly. We are talking about the grueling, yet often invisible labor.
That's the term for it. Invisible labor. The student who stays late to clean up after every single drama rehearsal. The one who meticulously checks sources for the debate team.
Or the one providing essential admin support to a youth council. I mean, this effort is monumental.
It is. It's the real education in many ways.
And yet, so often, that phenomenal hard work goes completely unseen, unacknowledged, or, and this is the worst of all, just taken for granted.
Hmm.
If you've ever felt that deep, demoralizing sting of putting your heart and soul into something and getting nothing back, no acknowledgement, no constructive feedback, just silence, then this deep dive is for you.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our listener, you want a shortcut to understanding the psychological necessity of recognition for students. And it is a necessity far deeper than just, boosting morale.
Right.
So we're diving into a comprehensive stack of sources that really define this problem. They identify the systemic, personal, and social roadblocks that create it, and they offer a pretty comprehensive toolkit of actionable steps for everyone in the student's ecosystem.
So our mission today is clear. We are dissecting the hidden cost of unseen effort. Because this issue isn't just about feeling good or getting a generic pat on the back.
No, not at all.
It's about foundational psychological needs, like self-worth, competence, and sustained motivation. And when those core needs are neglected, it dramatically affects a student's long-term participation, it limits their holistic development, and eventually it starts to poison their academic mindset too.
It truly is a holistic problem, and the stakes are high. I mean, the sources confirm that addressing this lack of recognition is fundamentally about securing the student's psychological and emotional investment in their own journey.
Yeah.
If the effort isn't valued, if the input doesn't correlate to worth, the development just stops. The student retreats.
So let's start by establishing the parameters.
Yeah.
What exactly are we talking about when we discuss this lack of recognition and the demotivation that comes from it in co-curriculars?
Well, our sources define it pretty precisely. They call it the feelings of intense discouragement and diminished self-worth that happen when a student's dedicated efforts, their skills, and their hard work in these activities go largely unnoticed or underappreciated.
And that's by peers, parents, mentors, everyone.
Everyone. And that framing is so crucial because it elevates recognition from, a luxury to a psychological necessity.
Okay, a necessity. Let's dig into that.
Think of it as validation currency. It's the feedback loop that tells a student your investment of time, your energy, your emotion, it was worth something.
It meant something.
It meant something. It validates the skills they are developing, it affirms the progress they are making, and it confirms that they are seen as a contributing member of the community. So when there's no reciprocal acknowledgement, that psychological contract of effort is it's broken.
A broken contract. I like that. And when that acknowledgement is consistently absent, the student enters a state of what we can call effort isolation.
That's a great term for it.
They feel invisible, or worse, profoundly undervalued. And this leads to a profound loss of enthusiasm. We see them, inevitably withdraw from activities they once genuinely enjoyed.
Even if they had immense potential.
Immense untapped potential in those areas.
Yeah.
They start to ration their energy, right? They invest only where they know the return is guaranteed, which often, ironically, means turning back to those high-stakes academic metrics.
Exactly. It's the slow, steady drip of erosion that wears down their intrinsic desire to participate. But we really need to be clear here. This issue extends far, far beyond formal awards or, printed certificates handed out at the end of the year.
Oh, for sure. Those are important, I guess, but they're not the whole story.
Not even close. While those are moments of public celebration, they are rare and they're limited to a very few.
So true recognition, it's more continuous and nuanced. It includes something as simple as verbal appreciation from a coach, someone who just says, hey, I see you made a difficult creative choice there, and it really paid off.
Yes. Or a teacher who recognizes the consistency of effort, even if the final execution was a little flawed.
Right. It's the kind of constructive feedback that proves the mentor is actually invested in the process of the student's growth.
The process,
Mhm.
not just the outcome. Feedback says, I saw what you did, I analyzed it, and here's how you can make it better. This is recognition that is actionable and it's growth-oriented.
And critically, recognition is also about fostering a fundamental sense of belonging, right?
Oh, absolutely. A
Sure.
sense of belonging in a team or an event, knowing that your consistent presence, your steady contribution, it matters. Even if you're not the star player or the lead presenter, your role is vital.
This whole issue is particularly vital when we're discussing adolescence. This is an age of intense identity formation.
They are rapidly trying to figure out who they are, what they are good at, and where they fit in the very complex social metrics of school and life.
So they are fundamentally seeking validation to construct their self-image. It's
Yes.
not vanity, it's developmental.
It's developmental. It's a biological imperative. So when they invest heavily in a co-curricular activity, let's say they dedicate their free time to running the school's digital archive or spending hours lobbying local businesses for sponsorship.
Yeah, real difficult work.
Real work. And if that effort is consistently missed by the authority figures or the community they serve, the consequences are severe.
They internalize a really painful message, don't they? That the effort they put in wasn't worthwhile, or even worse, that they aren't valuable outside of the narrow confines of academic performance.
Yes. And that leads to the gradual erosion of self-confidence and a diminished willingness to participate. They are left in a highly vulnerable psychological state, often leading them to shut down those important avenues of self-expression and growth entirely.
It's like, if the world doesn't see it, why bother bringing it into existence?
That's a perfect, if heartbreaking, way to put it.
Okay, so here's where the complexity really deepens. This problem isn't caused by one single flaw. The sources break it down into this powerful, interconnected trinity of factors: institutional shortcomings, internal psychological struggles, and external social pressures.
A trinity of factors. I like that.
Let's start by scrutinizing the system itself, because often the roadblocks are built into the very structure of the school environment. Hashtag A. Institutional factors, systemic barriers.
Right. So institutional factors. These are those systemic barriers that govern who gets seen and who gets celebrated. A primary and really pervasive cause is overt or perceived bias.
Okay, bias.
This means favoritism, of course, but also relying on highly subjective selection criteria when deciding who receives key event slots, captaincies, or public awards.
That subjectivity is it's toxic. It immediately signals to students that hard work isn't the only currency, or maybe not even the most important one.
Exactly. When students observe that the same few favorite individuals receive acknowledgement regardless of the quality of their most recent work, it validates the belief that effort is secondary to status or, existing relationships.
Which naturally just kills motivation for everyone who isn't already inside that favored circle. It promotes cynicism and withdrawal. Why bother trying if the game feels rigged?
You're absolutely right. And compounding this is a general lack of reward mechanisms for diverse forms of contribution. Institutions often rely on these really traditional finite platforms, a single sports trophy night or a drama showcase.
So if a student excels in something outside those established lanes,
Yeah.
let's say competitive coding or sustainable infrastructure design or sophisticated database management for the library.
Right, these incredibly valuable real-world skills. The school simply lacks dedicated structures for showcasing or celebrating those truly diverse talents. They don't fit in the existing boxes.
And then we have to face the massive institutional elephant in the room: the overemphasis on academic success.
Oh, it's huge. Our sources point out that institutions consistently prioritize marks, grades, and college placement over holistic growth. And this creates a psychological hierarchy of worth.
Let's use a tangible example here.
Good idea. So a student, let's call her Maya, spends 40 hours creating a detailed, innovative financial literacy program that she rolls out to the entire ninth grade class. It's an immense leadership and organizational feat.
Okay.
But if the next week Maya gets a C on a math quiz, the conversation with her guidance counselor and, crucially, with her parents will focus entirely on that math grade.
The financial literacy project just evaporates.
It's deemed irrelevant to her real success narrative. This hierarchy implies that anything outside the core academic gradebook is merely decoration. It's a hobby, not development.
Precisely. If a student is spending 20 hours a week coaching younger peers for a science fair, a huge unselfish contribution, but they are only formally evaluated on their quarterly grades.
The message from the institution is crystal clear.
Yeah. The effort invested in community and growth was irrelevant to their overall success.
And finally, within these institutional structures, we often find really poor feedback systems. I mean, teachers or coordinators are often stretched so thin, and consequently, they fail to provide timely, specific, or constructive feedback.
And as we just established, feedback is recognition. It's actionable recognition.
It is. So when it's absent, a student's devoted effort feels like it just dissipates into the void, leaving them unsure if they are improving or if anyone is even paying attention to their developmental arc. Hashtag B, psychological factors. Internal struggles.
Okay, so now we shift inward. We're looking at how the system interacts with the student's own psychology, because the institution only exacerbates existing internal factors that predispose students to demotivation.
That's a key point. For some, the problem is rooted in deep-seated low self-esteem. This is the internalized belief, often fostered over years of subtle discouragement, that their efforts are never good enough, so why bother even seeking external recognition?
So they might achieve something objectively great.
And their inner critic just dismisses it as luck, or tells them they should have done better regardless of what a judge or a coach might say. They disqualify the positive before it can land.
And this interacts powerfully with that innate adolescent need for validation.
Yes. This is that strong biological drive for approval from peers, from mentors, from authority figures that's inherent in this developmental stage. They need to know that the identity they are building is socially accepted and recognized as valuable.
And when this desperate validation need meets perfectionism, it becomes a toxic cocktail.
It really does. Perfectionism is that rigid mindset that anything short of absolute flawless excellence is unworthy of acknowledgement.
So if they put 100 hours into a painting and it doesn't win the blue ribbon,
those 100 hours are suddenly labeled as worthless and embarrassing to them. It's a total waste. And that can lead to severe burnout and a reluctance to try again.
and often they don't even reach that point because of the paralyzing fear of comparison.
Right. Our sources note that students feel constantly overshadowed by peers who are perceived as innately more talented or better funded or more experienced.
So they just retreat.
They retreat entirely, rather than risk a comparison they feel they will inevitably lose. They internalize that if they can't be the best, they shouldn't participate at all. It's a crucial defense mechanism against the inevitable pain of feeling invisible. #C. Social and environmental factors, external pressures.
Okay, now let's move to the external environment. The social factors that apply this intense, often immediate pressure that can just crush a nascent motivation.
Yes, and this includes pure neglect or mockery, the really negative effect of ridicule for participating in less popular or traditionally nerdy or uncool activities.
Right. Imagine a student who genuinely loves chess or, I don't know, collecting data for the school's ecological survey.
Yeah.
If that participation makes them the subject of constant jokes or social exclusion, that social stigma can override any internal motivation instantly.
The risk of social pain just outweighs the potential for personal growth. It's a simple, brutal calculation for a teenager.
And then there's the critical role of the home environment. Parental disinterest.
This one is so important. If parents focus exclusively on academic results, viewing a B in history as a 5-alarm fire, and treat co-curriculars as a nuisance, a time waster, or a secondary concern,
The student loses a massive foundational source of affirmation.
absolutely. If a student tries to share a success, say they organized a major, complex community volunteer effort, and the first question their parent asks is about their upcoming math test score,
Or how their grades look for college applications.
that sends a powerful, destructive message. The holistic effort and developmental learning are irrelevant to the family's definition of success.
And this leads to another point, which is Inadequate mentorship.
Yes, the absence of guiding figures, coaches, teachers, older students who step in and explicitly help students value the process.
The process. We keep coming back to that.
Because it's key. Valuing the effort, the teamwork, the learning over just the outcome. Without that adult narrative, students are left psychologically vulnerable, and they default to the simple, scoreboard-focused worldview of winning versus losing.
And finally, the atmosphere of unhealthy competition.
Right. By designing systems that recognize only a select, tiny few, the first-place winner, the lead role, the captain, the school inadvertently creates feelings of exclusion and demotivation among the vast majority of participants.
Who put in just as much dedication.
Just as much, sometimes more. If only the top 1% receive praise, the remaining 99% are implicitly told their effort was insufficient, even if they improved 50% over the course of the year.
Okay, so if we connect all these systemic, internal, and social pressures,
Yeah.
how does this lack of recognition actually, show up?
That's the key question. What are the observable signs that our listener, whether they are a student themselves, a mentor, or a parent, should look for? These are the behavioral indicators of demotivation.
And our sources give us some really clear physical and emotional indicators. I think the most obvious one is just withdrawal from co-curricular participation.
This might be sudden or it might be gradual, but the student just stops showing up. Or they start finding excuses, often despite having demonstrated significant potential or existing skill.
That physical retreat, it's usually coupled with a visible loss of enthusiasm, right?
Oh, definitely. Where they once showed up eager to contribute ideas, they become passive or silent or detached. You see a lack of creativity, or they stop initiating new ideas or taking on new responsibilities within the group.
Their energy tank is just empty.
It's been drained by a lack of psychological refueling. That's a perfect analogy.
And critically, this behavior, it bleeds into the academic environment. We observe reduced classroom engagement or contribution in group tasks.
That makes so much sense. If they feel their efforts aren't acknowledged in their passion project, something they chose to do, why on earth would they risk the effort or the vulnerability in a mandatory high-stakes group assignment?
They retreat into safe anonymity. Just do the bare minimum required.
Exactly. They also provide unmistakable verbal cues that signal distress. You have to listen carefully for expressions of inferiority or cynicism or phrases like,
No one notices my work anyway.
or it doesn't matter if I try, or why am I even doing this? These aren't just minor complaints. They're expressions of a fundamental psychological need that is not being met.
And on the emotional front, the signs are pretty clear too. Irritability, sadness, or acute detachment from school events and community life.
Right. They might be moody or quiet at home, suddenly refusing to discuss their activities. They are emotionally disinvesting, and that's a protective mechanism to prevent future pain from feeling unseen.
And this often results in measurable coping mechanisms.
Yes. Students might suddenly overfocus intensely on grades and academics, viewing marks as the one and only metric that truly matters.
Because it's the only one that gets rewarded.
It's the only one that gets a visible reward. Or they might isolate themselves from peer groups because those relationships were built around activities that now feel painful or unrewarding.
So now that we've established the symptoms, let's look at the consequences. Because the stakes here are genuinely high for long-term development. The primary impact seems to be a steep decline in motivation and decreased self-efficacy.
And let's define self-efficacy clearly here because it's important. Self-efficacy is not self-esteem.
Okay.
Self-esteem is liking yourself generally. Self-efficacy is the specific, internalized belief in your capacity to successfully execute a specific action or task.
Got it.
So if a student consistently tries hard in, say, public speaking, but no one affirms their progress, they stop trusting their capacity to succeed in that domain, even if they have the raw talent. And this stunts future risk-taking and skill acquisition.
Systemically, this leads to lower participation rates across the board.
Right, which means institutions are facing an underutilization of talent, and students are missing massive developmental opportunities, especially in those critical areas like leadership, teamwork, negotiation, and creativity.
All the skills that are primarily developed outside the strict confines of the academic syllabus.
Exactly. And psychologically, the stress is real. Feelings of being undervalued can trigger significant psychological stress, including anxiety, depression, and deep self-doubt, turning activities meant to be sources of enjoyment into sources of tension and fear.
And ultimately, this all results in hindered personal growth. If students disinvest, they limit the development of essential lifelong qualities.
They don't learn how to lead a complex project, how to navigate group conflict, or how to resiliently handle a public failure in a safe, affirming environment. Those essential skills just remain underdeveloped.
And finally, there's a very real spillover effect.
Demotivation in the co-curricular sphere can, and frequently does, affect academic performance and classroom confidence.
So if they believe their effort is invisible in the robotics club,
They may start to believe it's equally invisible and therefore meaningless. In the detailed research paper they write for history class, why exert effort for an invisible reward? It's a logical, though damaging, conclusion.
so we've seen the symptoms: withdrawal, anxiety, isolation. But let's ask the hard psychological question. Why does the human brain react so profoundly, so violently to a lack of acknowledgement?
That's the million-dollar question. And the sources give us the psychological scaffolding for why recognition is so fundamentally essential using established decades-old frameworks.
So this provides the scientific weight behind our claim that recognition is a necessity, not just a nice little bonus.
Exactly. We can start with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, established way back in 1943. Recognition directly satisfies the esteem needs of the student, which sit right below the pinnacle of self-actualization.
Okay, so esteem needs. Break that down for us.
Well, Maslow recognized that for people to fulfill their highest potential, they need two forms of esteem. First, the desire for strength, achievement, and competence. That's the internal validation. And second, the desire for reputation, prestige, and status from others. That's the external validation.
And recognition is the essential bridge between those two needs.
It is. If a student's basic needs, like safety and belonging, are met, but their esteem needs are consistently ignored by their community, they cannot progress towards self-actualization, the full realization of their potential.
So they get stuck.
They get stuck. The student starts questioning not just their capacity to do a job well, but their overall value within the group and the institution. The sources confirm that the lack of this satisfaction leads directly to deep insecurity and dramatically reduced motivation.
Okay, next we pivot to a more modern framework. Self-determination theory, or SDT.
Yes, put forth by Deci and Ryan in 1985. This theory posits that intrinsic motivation, that's the internal sustainable drive to participate, thrives when three basic psychological needs are met.
And those are?
Autonomy, which is feeling in control. Competence, feeling skilled. And relatedness, feeling connected.
And recognition is the primary mechanism through which competence and relatedness are fulfilled in this context.
Precisely. Recognition fulfills the need for competence by providing explicit feedback. Yes, you did that well, and I see your skill is growing. It literally validates their increasing ability.
And for relatedness.
It fulfills the need for relatedness by signaling, you are a valued member of this team or community. Your presence matters to us.
So if a student quits the debate team, was it because they felt isolated, so low relatedness, despite being a strong speaker? Or because they felt they weren't improving, low competence, despite loving their peers? Recognition addresses both.
Right. It ties ability and belonging together, creating a robust internal drive to continue participating.
Then there is Bandura's social learning theory from 1977.
Yes, and this explains the social mechanism of recognition, the power of observation. Seeing peers being appreciated serves as a powerful model.
So if student A sees student B get acknowledged explicitly for perseverance, not just for winning, but for showing up every day and never giving up,
Student A is reinforced to show perseverance, too. It's visible proof of the effort-reward connection.
and conversely, the lack of recognition actively deters engagement.
Absolutely. If students consistently observe that the immense effort in, say, the school newspaper or the volunteering group yields no visible reward or public praise, they learn through observation that those activities are not valued by the system.
And they will rationally redirect their efforts toward domains that do receive loud, visible appreciation.
Which unfortunately often defaults back to grades. This explains why sometimes one coach's focused, detailed praise on one athlete's technique can instantly lift the performance of an entire team. It's observable reinforcement that technique, not just innate talent, is what is being valued.
And to quantify the scope of this, the systemic vulnerability, the sources cite a specific and frankly a genuinely shocking data point, an APA study conducted in 2022.
It's a stark one. It found that 61% of adolescents reported feeling demotivated when their efforts in non-academic domains were not acknowledged.
61%.
61%. That is nearly two-thirds of young people whose internal drive is being systematically undermined simply because the mechanisms for appreciation are insufficient or poorly executed or just too narrowly focused.
That statistic, it underscores the urgency of addressing this not as a fringe issue concerning a few sensitive students.
No, it's a crisis in student well-being and developmental trajectory. We are literally crushing the engine of motivation for the majority of students.
Okay, this overwhelming data and detailed analysis raises the essential question. What can be done practically across the entire ecosystem, students, teachers, and parents, to address this high rate of demotivation?
This is the part where we move definitively from diagnosis to tangible action. And the sources give us an extensive list of evidence-based strategies. We should start with empowering the individual student, making them the first line of defense against the fickle nature of external validation. Hashtag student-centered strategies. 10 points for self-reliance.
Okay, so the core idea here is managing intrinsic motivation.
Right, so that external recognition becomes the icing on the cake, not the cake itself. The first strategy is the self-appreciation journal.
That journal.
But this is not a standard diary. It's a commitment to maintaining a log of achievements, small wins, specific skill acquisitions, and personal growth moments.
And the psychological benefit here is that it forces the student to be their own first validator.
Yeah.
It shifts the locus of control inward.
Exactly. If they record 3 moments every week where they learned something or succeeded on their own terms, they create an internal data set that overrides the external silence.
Next up is setting personal benchmarks.
Yes, students should be taught to actively compete against their past performance, a previous time, a previous skill level, a previous personal record. This is an intrinsically rewarding process that requires no external approval and fosters a mindset of continuous improvement based on mastery.
Follow that up with skill reflection practice.
Right. Once a week, students should consciously reflect on what they actually learned through participation. Not what score they got, but the new knowledge, the specific teamwork skill, or the resilience they acquired. This reinforces the inherent value of the process itself, even if the outcome was disappointing.
Students should also actively develop peer support groups.
This is a big one. They should encourage mutual acknowledgement and appreciation among classmates and teammates. Sometimes, the most meaningful and immediate recognition comes horizontally from peers who truly understand the effort involved, not vertically from authority figures.
And students need to proactively volunteer for visibility.
This means seeking out and participating in roles that inherently highlight consistent effort and responsibility, not just the final glamorous end results, maybe taking meeting minutes, organizing the equipment inventory, or assisting younger students. These roles build undeniable competence and make their contributions visible.
Another crucial habit is learning to actively seek constructive feedback.
Yes. Students need to be empowered to request specific, actionable feedback from mentors. This turns the pursuit of generalized recognition into a targeted pursuit of specific growth-oriented knowledge about their performance. They take control of the feedback loop.
The sources also suggest actively celebrating small wins.
Yes, by creating personal, low-cost rituals to recognize progress, no matter how minor. This could be anything from buying a favorite coffee after a tough, consistent week of practice, to setting aside 15 minutes to just acknowledge a successfully completed complex, non-glamorous task.
In our increasingly digital world, they should learn to engage in multiple platforms.
That's a great point. If the institution doesn't provide a platform, if they don't have a school blog for coding achievements, the student can showcase their talents through controlled social media channels, personal online portfolios, or local community exhibitions. They create their own stage to gain control over their visibility.
And finally, the 2 critical mindset shifts. First, reframing recognition.
By learning to value intrinsic satisfaction, the joy of mastery, the pride of effort over external praise, and second, proactively adopting a growth mindset where they view challenges and temporary setbacks as essential opportunities to grow, rather than purely as opportunities to be recognized and judged. Hashtag be teacher and school-based measures. 7 points for inclusion.
All right, now, what can the educational structure do to fix its systemic barriers?
Systemic change starts with inclusive recognition policies. Schools must consciously shift their policies to acknowledge the entire spectrum of participation: effort, consistency, improvement, and perseverance. Not only victory, skill mastery, or the top performance.
A brilliant, highly practical idea that addresses the bias problem is implementing rotational appreciation systems.
Yes. Teachers or coordinators can commit to highlighting one student weekly for specific positive effort, perhaps not the best debater, but the student who consistently provided the best research notes. This ensures recognition is spread consistently and focused directly on process.
But here's the challenge.
Yeah.
How do you prevent this from becoming tokenism?
That's the key. Implementation requires that the teacher provides specific context, rotating criteria. This week, we honor resilience. Next week, organizational skills, and detailing why that specific student was chosen. It has to be specific and sincere to be effective.
Schools also need to upgrade their visibility mechanisms, display corners and digital boards.
Yes, these should be dedicated specifically to showcasing the diverse talents that fall outside the traditional sports drama academics trifecta. Show the fantastic creative coding project, the student who organized a community cleanup, or the detailed photography submissions. Make the invisible visible.
Evaluation needs to change radically. We need feedback-oriented evaluation.
Which means providing regular, formative, and motivating feedback. Instead of just assigning a final grade or numerical score, the emphasis must shift from judgment about current performance to guidance about future growth.
Mentorship circles are also essential.
Absolutely. Creating structured mentor-mentee pairings, often involving older students or dedicated faculty, to offer consistent, personalized guidance. This ensures every student has one invested adult who is helping them navigate challenges and providing that critical, continuous recognition.
Coordinators should maintain a detailed student talent database.
A comprehensive record of student skills, involvement, leadership roles, and contributions across all activities. This allows the system to provide targeted encouragement, ensuring no student's effort is completely lost in the administrative noise when opportunities arise.
And critically, schools must institute balanced event criteria.
Yes, they need to ensure inclusivity in nominations and awards, perhaps having official categories that focus on resilience in the face of setback, most improved participant, or best collaborative effort, right alongside the traditional best performer award. This signals that effort is equally valued as achievement. Hashtags, parent tag C, parental and home interventions. 5 points for support.
Okay, moving to the home. Parents are the primary source of affirmation and emotional refueling.
They are. And first and foremost, verbal encouragement at home. Parents must consciously appreciate the effort and commitment the child puts in, regardless of the outcome or the lack of official recognition.
So parents need a script shift.
They do. Focus on, I'm so proud of how hard you worked and how much you committed to that team, instead of, did you win? What was your score? This reinforces that the effort itself is intrinsically valuable.
They should actively celebrate participation.
This is so important. Attending school events, even minor ones like an intramural game or a quick club meeting presentation, and showing visible pride in the child's involvement signals that the activity itself is fundamentally valued by the family. Visible presence is powerful acknowledgement.
Parents must aggressively avoid comparison.
Please. They need to focus discussions entirely on the child's unique strengths and personal trajectory, rather than measuring them against high-achieving peers, siblings, or even the parent's own high school experiences. Comparison is the thief of self-worth.
They must actively encourage passion projects.
Yes. By supporting hobbies or interests outside of mandated academics. If the student loves building model airplanes or studying obscure history, supporting that validates the student's identity outside the classroom, providing intrinsic joy and reinforcing that their effort matters, period.
And finally, parents must explicitly recognize emotional effort.
This is a subtle but powerful one. Praise persistence. Praise the courage in trying something new, especially after a failure, and praise the maturity required to manage disappointment. These are the critical soft skills co-curriculars teach, and they deserve explicit, consistent parental acknowledgement. #D. Institutional and long-term approaches. 5 points for sustainability.
All right, looking long-term, institutions need permanent, sustainable infrastructure to embed this culture of appreciation.
Yes. They should establish recognition boards or digital portals that continuously feature monthly achievers across a vast array of disciplines, keeping the focus broad, dynamic, and reflective of the entire student body's contributions.
The appreciation assemblies need to move beyond just academic or athletic honors.
They do. Schools should hold dedicated recognition ceremonies focusing purely on character and non-graded skills. Creativity, ethical behavior, teamwork, leadership celebrating achievements that are often unseen by the grading system.
A powerful tool for building horizontal culture is peer nomination awards.
I love this one. This structural change allows students to nominate their peers for specific qualities like helpfulness, consistency, resilience, or kindness. This builds that crucial horizontal acknowledgement and fosters a communal culture where students actively look for the positive contributions of others.
Furthermore, investing in teacher training and motivational communication is vital.
It's non-negotiable. Educators are often not trained in the psychology of validation. They need specific, ongoing professional development on techniques to boost student morale, provide detailed growth-oriented feedback, and understand the profound psychological stakes of consistent, genuine recognition.
And finally, the formal establishment of well-being committees.
Yes, where recognition is integrated as a key metric and indicator of emotional and social health. This formalizes the idea that appreciation is not optional or peripheral, but a foundational requirement for a psychologically healthy, high-performing school environment. It moves recognition out of the hands of one person and embeds it into institutional policy.
Okay, these sources don't just give us the theory and broad strategies, they provide a specific, actionable toolkit for you to use or share immediately. This is about making those abstract solutions concrete steps that can be implemented tomorrow.
Starting with the essential reflective tool that every student, parent, or mentor can use, the self-assessment checklist. This allows the student to gauge their current sense of value and feedback reception by rating themselves on a scale of 1 to 5 on 4 specific diagnostic items.
The first item is direct and measures external validation. I feel my contributions and activities are consistently valued by my peers and mentors. A low score here signals an immediate problem with the external recognition system.
Second, I receive specific constructive feedback about my performance, not just vague praise or criticism. This measures the quality of the communication they receive. A low score means the problem isn't the absence of talking, but the absence of meaningful, actionable conversation.
Third, I take pride in my efforts and growth, even when others may not notice them. This is the critical intrinsic motivation check. How well are they validating themselves? A low score suggests a high dependence on external validation.
And fourth, I actively acknowledge others' efforts to build a positive environment. This is a crucial metric for measuring their contribution to the culture of appreciation itself. Are they part of the solution? Students who rate low across all 4 areas need immediate intervention.
Next, we have a specific structured memory review exercise called Moments That Mattered. This is a powerful retrospective practice.
It is. Students are asked to recall 3 specific instances where they felt genuinely and profoundly recognized for their effort, and 3 where their effort was completely missed or ignored.
And the exercise doesn't stop with simple recall.
No, it requires a compulsory follow-up reflection on the motivational impact of each set of memories. For the recognized moments, how did that positive feeling fuel their future engagement? For the unrecognized moments, how did that experience diminish their willingness to try again?
This practice makes the direct cause and effect connection between recognition and drive tangible. It gives them the data point that says, when I receive positive specific acknowledgement or give it to myself, I am a better student and a more motivated participant. It personalizes the science.
For group settings, whether in a classroom, a sports team, or a club, we have the peer recognition activity appreciation wall. This is a positive group exercise designed specifically to foster relatedness and horizontal acknowledgement.
The mechanism is simple and anonymous, but incredibly powerful. Every participant anonymously writes one positive note about a classmate's specific contribution.
And it must be specific, not general. For example, I appreciated your consistency in practice this week, which kept the rest of us on track. Or, your creative solution to the scheduling problem saved us valuable time. They post these on a common board, making the invisible work visible to everyone.
And finally, for personal resilience, the sources provide a powerful personal tool, the affirmation routine.
This is a short statement designed to be repeated regularly to reinforce self-worth and self-efficacy regardless of the turbulent nature of external circumstances.
And the recommended affirmation, which you should internalize and repeat daily, is, I value my efforts and growth, even when others may not notice them. My journey defines my worth.
That routine, repeated regularly, helps students build that inner shield of self-efficacy. It shifts them away from the psychological vulnerability of needing external applause. It is the ultimate tool for intrinsic resilience and sustained personal motivation. #outro. So, to synthesize what we've covered today, the concluding insight from our extensive stack of sources is absolutely clear. Recognition is not a simple reward or a nice-to-have privilege. It is a profound psychological necessity rooted in the need for esteem, competence, and relatedness. When schools and families cultivate a culture of appreciation, one that acknowledges effort, process, and perseverance, they actively build the core ingredients for confidence, inclusion, and sustained enthusiasm.
We've seen that the lack of recognition is a pervasive, systemic failure rooted in institutional bias, adolescent psychological vulnerability, and external social pressures. This failure manifests as measurable symptoms like withdrawal, self-doubt, and reduced participation that inhibit essential growth.
But we have also shown that the solutions are tangible, they're scalable, and they're powerful, ranging from self-appreciation journals to rotational systems in the classroom and conscious parenting choices at home.
Ultimately, the long-term benefit here is immense. Students who learn to value both intrinsic satisfaction and are appropriately supported by external acknowledgement develop essential lifelong qualities: deep resilience, the capacity for complex teamwork, genuine creativity, and strong emotional maturity. And that is the real lasting goal of co-curricular involvement, and recognition is simply the essential fuel that gets them there.
So, as you move forward with this new comprehensive understanding, we invite you to consider this a final provocative thought for yourself. Think about how the structure of recognition in your own environment, whether that's your workplace, your hobby group, your family dynamic, or your community organization, might be unintentionally reinforcing unhealthy competition or systematically isolating unseen effort. And what is one specific rotational appreciation step you could start tomorrow to ensure that the vital but invisible work finally becomes visible and valued?